If you're looking to take out a mortgage in the UK and you're paid in euros, then this video is for you. We're going to look at how that income is treated, where it can be drawn from, the documents you might need, if there are any specific lenders you might want to focus on, and lots more besides. We're going to answer the top 10 questions that our clients typically ask us when they're being paid in euros and looking to take out a mortgage. Can I get a mortgage in the UK if I'm paid in euros? Yes, you can. We have plenty of clients that are employed on this basis. It might be that you are employed in the UK and that the company you work for is headquartered in Europe and therefore your income is denominated in euros. The income is received in euros, but you pay your tax here, you live here. That's all fairly straightforward. It might be that you live in the UK and have a residence here, but you're actually working overseas and paid in euros. Some examples that we see of that are people that are on secondment, so maybe have 3, 6, 9 month period that they're working overseas. It might be that you work overseas during the week and come back on weekends. It might be that you have family in the UK and they live in the main residence and you can go back and forth. All those scenarios are absolutely fine. And yes, we can look to get you a mortgage. How do UK lenders treat income paid in euros for mortgage applications? So when we make an application to a lender using foreign currency income, including euros, we will be responsible for converting that income back into pound sterling. We typically use 𝐂𝐨𝐫𝐞𝐞. We need to provide the lender with the tool that we used, the date the conversion was done on, and that is the figure that we input to the application. Some lenders will use 100% of that income, whereas some will take a deduction or a haircut to account for fluctuations in exchange rate. As I said, some lenders don't take a deduction, some vary between sort of 10 and 20%, and some go as much as 25% reduction. So they'll only use 75% of that income if it's received in euros. That is the same whether you are based in the UK and working in the UK or whether you're working overseas. As long as that income is received in a foreign currency, the conversion and the haircuts that's applied are the same. What documents do I need to provide if I'm applying for a mortgage and paid in euros? So if we focus on the income documents you would need, if you're an employed applicant, they would typically want to see the last 3 months' pay slips to evidence the income. If you receive any variable elements of pay, like bonuses, commission, overtime, they'll want to see pay slips evidence that income being received. If it's paid monthly, they'll want to see the last 3 months. If it's paid quarterly, typically the last 3 quarters. And if it's annually, then it's the last 2 years. Varies lender to lender, but that is kind of a rough idea of what will be expected. If you're self-employed and you pay a tax in the UK, then they'll want to see company accounts, tax calculations, and tax year overviews from the UK for the last 2 years to show a track record of earnings. If you are self-employed overseas, then they'll want to see those equivalent tax documents in the jurisdiction that you pay your tax. So again, company accounts, tax returns, tax calculations, that sort of thing. Are there specific UK lenders that accept euro income for mortgage applications? Yes, there are. If we're talking about kind of mainstream high street banks, at present in October 2024, there are 4. So we've got Halifax, HSBC, NatWest and Santander. They'll all accept euro income. The haircut that's applied will depend on the lender, but yes, those are all lenders that will accept it. We've also got kind of more specialist lenders and private banks that also accept euro income. So if you're looking at doing something a bit more specialist, a bit quirky, and the high street banks wouldn't go for it, then there's obviously options there. How does the exchange rate affect my UK mortgage if I'm paid in US dollars? The conversion is done at the point of application. So whatever the exchange rate is when we're making the application to the mortgage lender, that is the exchange rate that will be used. So your sterling equivalent is calculated upfront, and that's the number that's used for the mortgage application. Once the mortgage has gone through and completed and it's up and running, any fluctuations to exchange rate won't impact the payment that you make. So your monthly mortgage payment will be determined in sterling, and you'll be responsible for making that payment. Any fluctuations between the rate in which the exchange rate and the currency that you're paid in US dollars versus sterling won't have any kind of impact. It's up to you to kind of be able to absorb those shocks. How much deposit do I need for a UK mortgage if my income is in euros? So the income being paid in euros doesn't determine the deposit requirement. The deposit requirement is standard, and each lender will have their own policy. As a general rule of thumb, the more you're borrowing, the larger the deposit the lender will need. Larger loans are higher risk for the lender, so they want a bit more of a buffer. The fact that you're paid in euros doesn't determine that. All the euro income determines is the affordability for the loan. So will my borrowing capacity be affected if I'm paid in euros? So potentially here, and it depends on the lender. If you are paid in a foreign currency, the lender will convert that currency back to sterling and then potentially apply a haircut or a deduction to account for currency fluctuations. So someone like Santander, for example, will deduct by 25% to account for those reductions. So if we're looking at going with someone like that, then yes, the fact you're paid in euros will obviously reduce the amount you can borrow because they're only using 75% of that income. However, there are lenders out there that will use 100% of it. So at the moment, NatWest will take 100% of euro income. So it depends on the lender as to whether or not it affects the affordability. Once we've done the conversion, got it back into sterling, we've worked out the figure that the lender will use, the rest of the calculations, like the affordability model and the loan to income calculations that the lender applies, are standard, regardless of whether you're paid in euros or sterling. It's just the conversion and the haircut that might affect things. Can I remortgage in the UK if I'm paid in euros? Yes, absolutely you can. We would need to focus on those specific lenders that accept euro income, but it's the same as if you were making a purchase application. We just convert that euro income back into sterling, notify the lender the tool that was used and the date the conversion was done. They would then apply any relevant haircuts and use that income for affordability. As long as that fits and the rest of the case is approved by the lender, then there's no reason why you can't remortgage using euro income on a UK property. Do I need to convert my euro income into pound sterling for a mortgage application? No, you don't. So the conversion is done by the broker at the point of application and it's done on paper. So we would convert your euro income into sterling and then use that figure for the mortgage application. The lender then might apply their relevant haircut, but that's kind of the income figure that we use. If you are receiving your income into an overseas account in foreign currency, then that's absolutely fine. There's no need to convert that back. The lender will assume that when you've actually got the mortgage set up and you're responsible for making those payments, you will make the necessary conversions to pay the mortgage each month. Are there specific mortgage products for people that are paid in euros? For the most part, lenders will offer you this standard range of products. So the fact you're paid in a foreign currency won't impact that. And it's about setting up the loan on the terms that are most appropriate for your needs. One thing that you might want to consider though is that if you're paid in euros, there's exchange rate fluctuations to deal with that might impact your ability to make mortgage payments. So you need to make sure that you're in a position where you can absorb those shocks. If you put the mortgage on a variable rate, that also changes depending on where interest rates go. You might find you then have two kind of moving elements. And if they both go against you, the sort of gap between what you're receiving and what you're paying out on the mortgage can widen. So it might be in your interest to kind of have at least one element of those fixed by kind of going for a fixed rate option. But again, it's all down to you, your personal circumstances and what is most appropriate. So those are the top 10 questions our clients most frequently ask us when they're paid in euros. Hopefully there's some useful information in there for you. If you did find it helpful, then feel free to check out other videos on the channel. Plenty of good information in there.